Welcome back to Building the Pride podcast. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined as always, well, or at least now again, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself?
Well, I'm worried about you, bro. Not only are you here with me, quote unquote, in person,
Yeah.
but we were checking on something here on the internet, and my internet. Hey, Pat, what's up, man?
What's up, Pat?
We were checking on something on the internet, and I saw one thing, and you didn't see it, and then you're like, "Well, jump into the private chat on the stream here." And so I did, and I saw nothing, and you're like, "I've got stuff," and you showed it to me, and I was like, "I don't know where it went, but it's not. I can't see it." So there's gremlins in the system.
Fun times. To answer Pat's question, I think tonight is going to be a fun miscellaneous content type of thing. Like we'll talk about who would be in the Detroit Lions Mount Rushmore. Right, Barry Sanders obviously there, but who else? So we'll kind of talk about that. The NFL is starting to list their top 100 players as voted on by the players. I think they've gotten through number 80, 75, something like that. And there may or may not be some Lions on there to talk about. There are. Yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. Just miscellaneous things. So if you have ideas to talk about, throw them in the chat. We'll get there.
Mm-hmm. You're always welcome, Pat.
Yeah.
We lost a subscriber. We're down to 114.
What?
We've been betrayed.
We've been betrayed.
Yeah, I don't know who left, but
well, we'll have to win them back.
It's like breaking a mirror right here. You know, it's bad luck.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to win them back with quality content.
Yeah. When are we going to start?
Well, let's start with this. Let's news and notes around the NFL.
Yeah.
So there are a few things. Drew, get us started with the what you told me, and I'm like, yeah, I've already got it in the notes. And you're like, no.
So Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, signed a contract extension. I just heard over the radio, not the radio, the internet, completely different things.
They kind of do the same thing, but just differently.
Yeah, exactly. 4 years. Let's see, 113 million, which is 1 million more than Penei Sewell got. 77 guaranteed, and his deal is worth 43.7 million guaranteed at signing. So all of those are just slightly above Penei Sewell's deal, which means that Sewell's deal lasted for all of, let's see, they signed him in early April, and this is July, so 3 months,
3.5 months. Yeah,
you know, and like I don't believe that Rashawn Slater from Los Angeles has signed his extension yet, but he was in the same draft class as Sewell and Darrisaw, so I am assuming that is coming down the pipe, and I bet he was waiting in order to make Darrisaw go first. Now he's up another couple million. So wow, had that ready to go, didn't you? Look at you.
Well, yeah, I'm just copying and pasting it from the private chat that for whatever reason you couldn't see.
Could not see it. Now it's there. I got the Darrisaw thing.
And then so the other thing that Adam Schefter has reported is Jets defensive end Hassan Reddick hasn't gotten the deal he wanted. He's not planning to report to training camp today with the rest of the team. So that'll be interesting to see what the Jets do with Reddick. Stafford, the news on Stafford was originally he was going to hold out or whatever, but he's never said anything publicly around that. But he attended camp today, and they announced that they are going to be updating his contract. They didn't say how, but I know the rumor mill was he wanted more guaranteed money. He's got 2 more years, I think, on his contract. He's like, just guarantee me the money. Like, I think I've earned it. So he came in today. They said they're going to tweak the contract. So we'll kind of put that behind us. Then the last one is Jordan Love. Jordan Love has said that he's not going to, or his agent said that he's not coming to practice in camp until he gets a new deal.
Sure, good.
So Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's only played one season. You'd think that he'd want to continue to get the reps, but
Oh, he's their quarterback. I mean, this is no different than as if he had been playing
it's not
for.
a matter of like, is he going to be the quarterback? It's more of
Yeah,
like, hey, let's just get more reps in. The more reps you get in, the better you're going to be. So
yeah. I think he'll be fine. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, he played really well, especially the last 7-10 games last season.
yeah. So hard to get those reps in when you're sitting behind a Hall of Famer. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's not the case anymore. So, but Hassan Reddick, I listened to a podcast network called Locked On NFL, and as far as Hassan Reddick is concerned, like he over the last 4 years, he is up there with, as far as number of sacks generated, he's up there with some other people that are like near elite level pass rushers, but has been paid roughly a third of what those people producing at the same level. And he's on his 4th team in 4 years.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that at all. Like Carolina could use him, Philadelphia could use him, the Jets could use him, but none of them, have offered this guy a long-term deal. And he's one of the better pass rushers in his prime in the NFL. It just doesn't make any sense. So I hope that the Jets will do something smart for once and just pay the dude.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they have a really solid team, and he's a big piece of that. With Aaron Rodgers coming back this year, at least to start, who knows on the injury front, but he's planning on being back at full strength. You've got a good team, just don't fuck it up.
right.
This is one of those ways that you can fuck it up unnecessarily.
Yeah, I just don't get it, but I'm sure that they will. I just can't imagine that you're gonna play hardball with the guy that you traded for, to complement the fact that you have a bunch of either really young or unproven pass rushers. So I mean, I'm assuming that they'll just work it out, and this is just the normal nonsense that teams have to go through in order to have, quote unquote, have leverage over one another. So we'll see.
And Ayuk, nothing new on Ayuk. He's still
he has
formally asked for
he
trade.
has no leverage at all. He has no leverage at all, unfortunately. Like he's under contract. Like, and if he doesn't play,
they got a damn good roster. They're like, okay, well, I guess we'll have to settle for Debo and CMC and Kittle.
Yeah. I mean, like they have a great roster, and hang on one second. I've got over the cap up. Let me look to see what the 49ers have in cap space here. See, they're 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 6th most cap space in the NFL this year, and I think that Ayuk costs 14 against the cap, this year, but like they are 38 million, almost 39 million over the projected 2025 cap. So like, I know he wants a new deal, but his new deal is going to put him in the $30 million wide receiver range. He's going to be in that group. So they can't, what are they going to do? I mean, like Purdy is up for a contract extension, and if they tag him, that's 100% guaranteed. So that all goes onto the books, like you don't get any cap relief. You can't restructure that. So they have a lot of work to do before they get anything done. And he can't really afford to sit out because of the accrued season rule under the salary cap. Like, if you sit out a season, you don't become eligible for the kinds of like pay increases that somebody had been into the league 1 year longer than you is eligible for. So no one does it. I mean, you might sit out a game, or you might, be like, oh, I'm really serious about this. But like when it comes down to it, and like teams fine you for missing the mandatory stuff, and like that stuff adds up. It adds up into the millions of dollars. So, and if I remember I don't remember who it was, but like I remember they racked up like $5 or $6 million in fines from the team for missing the mandatory stuff. The team gives it all back when you sign the deal and everybody is in love again. But like, if you really want to play hardball, you either cost yourself what you owed, and then you're not eligible for more, and then they can just tag you. So like, I don't understand the trade. I mean, like in the NBA at least, like it can be like, I'm going to hit free agency and there's no tags. So like a player leaving is an actual threat. Ayuk has no leverage. Like the only leverage he has is that he's really good and he's like 28, 26, and I'm sure they want him. Why wouldn't they want him? Money's the only problem here. They probably just want time to figure out their cap for the next 2 or 3 years before they give him an offer that's on par, because like they're paying Debo 28 next year. So
That's crazy.
Like that's crazy. But like, let's see what Debo's got here. His contract runs through 2025. So he makes 28 and then 24, and you could cut him and you save almost $10 million, but then you take a $15 million dead cap hit, and that's probably going to become more and more commonplace. But like, well, let's look at Kittle. Kittle is signed through, Jesus Christ. Kittle is also signed through 2025, and he's got a bunch of void years on the end of his deal, but they're paying him 12 this year and 22 next year. So, Trent Williams.
He's cheap this year.
Sub Zakwa. Hey, Zakwa. Trent Williams is signed through 2026. He is making 31 this year, 34 next year, and almost 38 in 2026. And he'll be 38 years old in the final year of his like actual deal. So, who are you giving up? That's the thing about having a good roster. Like you can draft well and like you can sign like reclamation projects and all this kind of stuff, but your cap still goes up. So, like Brandon Ayuk has to play, and like
he's going to be somewhere. It's going to be in San Francisco. They'll figure it out.
It's 90% of the time they end up going back to the team that they're currently playing for. And like McCaffrey is signed. My God, McCaffrey makes nothing compared to these guys. He makes $6 million.
And he's probably the most important player on the team.
He's certainly the most versatile. You can make an argument between him and Debo, but like he makes less than $7 million this season. He makes less than 10 next season, then less than 12. Then he makes 27 in the last year of his deal, and that is
non-guaranteed.
2027.
Right?
Yeah, he loses all guaranteed money starting in 2026.
Yeah.
So like
that's why the 27's there. So he had the big number that sounds good.
Oh yeah.
They're like, we don't really want to pay it. And he's like, no, that's cool. I get it.
Yeah, if when he'll be 31 in 2027, and they would take a $7.8 million cap hit, and they would save 19.6. So it's probably likely that 2026 is like his last year before any kind of restructure or like renegotiation on the deal. But like he's the one that where do you save? Where do you save? And you also have to sign Brock Purdy, which I don't know that he's done anything. If Jared Goff is going to get paid $50 million, I don't know why Brock Purdy wouldn't get paid the same. So,
he's actually accomplished more, right? He got to a Super Bowl, more wins while he's been in the season, while he's been in the team.
God, their cap. So if they don't use this cap space, let's say they use $10 or $15 million just moving players between the practice squad and the roster. If they head into next season with like 16 million, you got to pay your draft class. That's about 10 million. And then like you would knock off $6 or $7 million off the 39 because of the rollover. So that's just, that's not as much as like a Saints cap problem, but like we're getting close to that territory.
And just as an FYI, he has reported to training camp.
Yeah, so. And like, I mean, and why? I mean, that just makes sense to me. I mean, like, come on, dude. And like, if you're like, here's sorry, one last thing on Ayuk.
Yeah.
But if like you're the other 31 teams in the NFL, you have to have better information than what we have.
Yeah.
You know? So like, if you know the 49ers are in this fucking log jam, you're not going to help them out of it. You know, and if you come to them, if you're like, I don't know, just pick a team and you're like, hey, we'll give you a 3rd and a 5th for Ayuk, you'd be like, you're wasting my time. Like, why are you doing this? You know, but like, if you're some other team, do you want to give up 2 first-round picks or a pick and a player to take on Ayuk and then have to give him $30 million and help the 49ers out? I mean, like, this isn't going to go. I would doubt this gets figured out during the season. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting. It may. I mean, if Deebo Samuel gets hurt or something like that, it may be like, hey, we need to lock this guy up. I don't know, but he'll be playing with San Francisco. He doesn't really have a choice. He's under contract. They'll fine him if he doesn't show up, if he doesn't play, and at that point, like, you're going to be getting larger fines than the money you're fighting for at some point, right? So.
Well, certainly amount of money. I mean, like, when these guys get docked game checks, everyone freaks out on like social media. Like, oh my God, you docked a rookie a game check? That's like 13% of what he makes this year. And I'm just like, so what? Like, the team will pay that back 10 times over. I mean, if they're not just paying the fine for the player anyways. I remember it was like Jock Bell, or no, who was the guy that was he's the running back. He went to the Saints.
Jamal Williams.
Like, oh, he did this little like hip dance or whatever, and everyone freaked out when they find him a game check. Like, those game checks are not like millions of dollars. You know, like, this is so much more real than anything.
I mean, if you're making over $17 million a year, it is.
Well, yeah, now we're starting to get into the actual. They'd still have to fine you multiple games, like, you know, like. So, I mean, yeah, the kind of money.
And most of the time, it's not game checks, right? A lot of, at least during like the OTAs and those kinds of things, those are usually smaller, you didn't report types of fees or fines, but
they rack up into the millions.
They rack up quickly, and then when you start getting into games, then you start losing entire game checks.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, that was. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Other quick news and notes. Caleb Williams finally signed his contract. And so did JJ McCarthy, I believe. That both of those guys were holding out. I was shocked, like the JJ thing. I'm like, I don't understand. I mean, they weren't signing their contracts.
Sure.
And I'm like, why? It's a rookie deal. You can't like change 98% of it. So just sign it.
The only thing that you can change is the language about when you receive some of the money.
Yeah. And if I remember right, I believe they got like all of it up front that they were allowed to get up front.
Yeah, I mean, like, with the CBA being what it is and knowing what picks, what players make what because of where they were drafted, like, if you're a team, just structure your rookie pool so that you just give these guys the most advantageous shit and just get it done. Just get it done and get them in your building. Like, who cares?
Oh, you want it all up front? That's fine. We're going to be paying you anyway. So just like, let's cut the check. We look player friendly. Yes. You got what you want. We made you happy. Now come into the facility on Monday and let's roll.
C'est magnifique. Okay. That's French for magnificent, I think. So.
I did not. I took Spanish in.
It was probably because I said it so well that it sounded exactly like a French person. So
probably
that's probably it. That's probably why it was confusing.
There are a few things happening around the Lions, though. We do have pup list. The first pup list and NFI list came out. Excuse me. DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, and Brian Branch all were put on the initial pup list for this year. And then Giovanni Manu, the draft pick, is on the NFI non-football injury list.
Yeah, that's not surprising. This is a this is a red shirt year for Manu, so this is exact. I imagine they will treat him exactly like they treated, oh God, the nose tackle from Western Kentucky that we took in the third round 2 years ago.
Anwuzurike?
No, he took the year off because he wasn't physically doing the things that they wanted him to do.
This is where we need Pat and Zeka to remind us.
And I never remember this guy's name anymore.
Does he play for us?
Broderick Martin. Broderick Martin.
Oh, Broderick
he didn't play at all. He didn't play at all. That's why he was memorable. But Martin will play this year to some degree. Manu will probably play. Actually, I read an article on The Athletic today by Colton Pouncey, who's the reporter who follows the Lions for The Athletic. And he thinks that, or he posited at least, that Manu will certainly see this whole year off the field. Like that is where, so like they will probably keep a roster spot open by putting him on NFI, and like you're in the practice, like you're learning the game, you're developing your body, you're getting your head right, all that stuff. It's a year off. And then he also posited that with Manu, because of his like development, like how recently he's come to football, like 2026 might even be a year that you don't see him much on the field. So I'll be watching to see what they do with him.
He was a late round pick, so it's not like he was the second rounder, right?
They traded a third round pick next year to take him in the fourth round this last draft.
I was thinking he was like 5 or 6 round, but yeah, you're right. God, that felt weird saying that.
Yeah. But like, it's going to be interesting to see this offseason what they do with their 6th tackle position, because if they like sign Dan Skipper, it's likely that we will not see Manu next season either. So that's one of the things I've already kind of got written down to be like, where does this guy stand? Like it'll be one of the like litmus tests for their confidence in his ability to play. Like he could be the team's future right tackle. So unless they're teaching him to play left tackle.
You think they're going to move?
I mean, Penei Sewell I understand like Penei Sewell's this good at right. Why would you mix up the formula or whatever? But like, if you're going to develop, are you developing this guy Manu for 2 years so we can be your sixth lineman? I mean, that's an awful lot of work and like trust and dedication that you're putting into like taking from what sounds like a walking Greek god and turning him into a football player. But are you going to take that guy who played college football in Canada and only has been playing like 3 or 4 years and then have him be your starting left tackle? I mean, I have a hard time seeing that.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Taylor Decker when they were talking about like Penei Sewell and him switching spots or whatever, and he said something to the effect of, think about it like this: if you're right-handed, you can wipe your ass with your left hand, but it's a little messy compared to when you're right-handed, right? He's like, you can do it, but it's not as good, right? You're not as good at it. It's going to be messier. You're not going to, have the same technique because you're moving in the totally, opposite situation or the opposite direction. So I found it funny, and I'm like, okay, I guess I kind of understand like what he's trying to get at there. But if you're that good, is it as big of a change? I don't know, maybe not.
Well, it'll be interesting to see regardless. So,
we've got other Detroit Lions news. Calvin Johnson is selected to join the Detroit Lions Ring of Honor this year. So awesome job, Calvin. We appreciate you.
We do. I don't know that it gets enough press. What a good job the front office has done repairing the relationships with these like legendary Lions.
Yeah.
You have Chris Spielman in the building every day. Like Barry Sanders is doing commercials and he's with the team. Hey, A6.
What's up, A6?
And, Calvin Johnson, that relationship was hurt and like
really cold.
Like, he was living in Atlanta and it was like, I don't see any reason to go back to Detroit, and players like Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, like these guys put in a lot of work and a lot of effort and got beat up pretty badly playing for bad teams.
Yeah.
So this feels like the minimum that you could do is to say thank you, even if you have to say thank you 1,000 times. Like if Barry Sanders wants to announce a Lions draft pick in like the second or third round for the rest of his life, neat.
Yeah.
You know,
Thanks, Barry. Let's do it.
If Calvin Johnson wants his own private floating box directly over the 50-yard line, you give it to him. Like, I mean, like it's just, and it, like the fans are happy about that. Yeah. They want these guys around because it's, you know, they are what made, you know, when you were a kid, you watched Barry Sanders. I watched Barry Sanders. Like when you were, you know, when you were in college, you watched Calvin Johnson. You know, I watched Calvin Johnson, and like they were the bright spots in otherwise abysmal situations. And so, like, to treat them with respect, we all want to be treated with respect. Every single person on earth wants to be treated with respect. Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice when you see someone that you care about, you respect, that was good for you, that made you happy, get that kind of respect. And it's the organization doesn't get enough credit for what they do. And having repaired these relationships, it's 2 thumbs way up. Good job, Sheila. I mean, like,
yeah, I totally agree. So on that same note, like the big one of the big discussion points is Stafford's coming back for his first regular season game. Like the first time he was in Detroit was a playoff game. He got booed. We beat him. Whatever. I get not doing a video montage during the playoffs. Now it's regular season. He's coming back for his first regular season game. Should the Lions do a thank you video montage for 2 minutes, you know, do the standing ovation, and then just go out and, like they did in the playoffs, go out and just beat them. I'm for yes. I've seen a lot of like, no, he hasn't done anything for us. We never won when he was there. What's up, Headers? Dr. D. I'm in the boat of yes, we should just do it. Chicago Blackhawks did it for Patrick Kane when he came back, and he actually came back with the Detroit Red Wings, like their biggest rival, and yet they still did that. And you see that from classy organizations. So I hope we do. Then I hope we just go out and beat them.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Like I don't feel there's anything wrong with saying like, thank you very much. We appreciate what you did for us while you were here. It didn't work out. You've had success. Kicked your ass in the playoffs. It's nice, you know, like
right. And we're gonna do it here in a few minutes, but in the meantime, we're gonna give you a high five, right?
It costs. I mean, it just costs so little, and there's already so much of this. Like, you know, you play a game for a living, and you just have to hate everybody else that you play against. Like, I just don't see it. Like, I'm completely fine with professional sports showing respect to other people, not Packers. But like people that played for the Lions who are still in the league, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. You know.
So one other quick shout out. So speaking of like Calvin Johnson, Ring of Honor, not Lions related, but it is Detroit sports related. Pavel Datsyuk, Red Wing great, is going to be elected to the Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame this fall. So. Congratulations, Pavel. He was, his nickname is the Magic Man, and that dude, I always called him the alien because he did things no human should be able to do, and it was just filthy. It was amazing to watch.
Don't watch hockey regularly. Like I can't tell you, they're running this play, or this is what they're trying to do here, or this is that rule. But I remember watching Pavel Datsyuk go in on either a breakaway or shooting like a penalty shot. And all of a sudden, he just turned 90 degrees on his skates, and I knew that was not something that hockey players did ever. You know,
the goalie goes down and he just kind of slides back, waits for him to fall, and he just flips it up over top of him, and you're like, you just made that shot. All-star goalie look fucking crazy bad.
You know, when you're so good that when people who don't watch the sport know that you're on a different level, I mean, that's a level that like very few people ever reach. And like I remember when they transitioned from that Yzerman, Fedorov, Avs rivalry team to the Zetterberg Datsyuk team. You know, and I was like, oh shit, like here we go. Like I don't know, like I love
it's not going to be as good, and then I'm like, oh,
and then they were amazing, you know. So congrats, Pavel. You deserve it.
Yeah.
So
He's a good dude. I've met him a couple times up at training camp. I got my picture with him, and super nice dude as well. And he doesn't look, I mean, like in person, out of hockey equipment, he looks like this regular yet scrawny little dude. And then you see him on the ice and he plants his foot and he will just knock somebody over and make people look foolish. He was a joy to watch. So congrats, Pavel, and congrats, Calvin, on 2 pretty awesome honors there.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm making fun of the Jets online just real quick.
Oh, that's always fun. Yeah, let's do it. But so Calvin Johnson, Ring of Honor. One of the fun things I want to talk about is the Mount Rushmores of teams, right? So who would be on the Detroit Lions Mount Rushmore? Like, I think Barry's an auto include, right?
So
who else goes on there?
I am going to keep this to players that I've watched. So I have 5 people that I think would make my.
You only get 4.
Mount Rushmore. Well, we could talk about them.
Yeah.
So Barry and Calvin.
Yep.
Barry's the best running back, or maybe even football player I think I've ever seen. Yep. So just to this day, no one has ever looked like Barry Sanders on a football field, and may never.
And if they try, they tear up their knee.
Yeah. And he did that shit on turf.
Yeah.
So Calvin Johnson is, I mean, even to the, I mean, he played he got drafted in 2007.
It was 2 years before Stafford was drafted.
17 years ago, and like 6'5", 230, moved the way that he did, caught the way that he did. So they used to do the sports science thing. Stop. Are we gonna have to kick Matt? Are we gonna have to kick A6 out of chat? So they did a sports science thing once, and they tried to figure out like what his catch radius was, and basically it was like if Calvin Johnson's catch radius was that of like a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Between
the up and the sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you plotted that 3-dimensional space, like, oh, you could fit 2, Ford trucks, and where Calvin Johnson can catch the ball. So those 2 are probably the 2 best Lions that I ever watched. I don't remember watching Chris Spielman play football, but I think that he would be one of the people that I would think would be on a lot of lists, certainly A6 list. But yeah. I will go with.
Fun to watch.
Yeah, I will go with Herman Moore, who I always kind of had a special place for, who played with a lot of bad quarterbacks. And there's Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
And I will also go with Corey Schlesinger.
So you're going to put Herman Moore and Schlesinger over Stafford?
Well, I mean, I like Matthew Stafford. But like, I like Matthew Stafford a lot. But Lomas Brown. There's lots of names. But like, I'll just pick some. I know you're going to pick Stafford. So
I think he's the 3rd best player in the team's history. So like, I think to me, he's just as sure thing on there as Calvin is. But I do like your Herman Moore picked. He was somebody I was thinking of. I liked Spielman. So Tammy there has a good pick. A6, had Spielman there too. I did not get to watch Bobby Lane, but just everything that I've heard about makes me feel like
bitch put a curse on the team.
That is true.
You don't get to be on Mount Rushmore when you're out here cursing the team.
Yeah, that is true. But I feel like he probably would belong in there, but I never saw him play. But if we were going with the people that we watched, I think I've got Barry, Calvin, Stafford, and the 4th one could be Herman Moore. I watched the very end of Billy Sims' career, and he was really fun to watch. I liked Billy Sims. Spielman would be on that list. And that's probably my list of like that 4th player. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick Spielman, because I would want a little bit of defensive representation on there with the rest of it being offense.
Well, their defense has been bad.
Yeah, he was one of the few shining stars even back in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, there are players that defensive players that I absolutely loved watching play football. Like I loved watching Ndamukong Suh play football. Like he was just different. And I love watching Aiden Hutchinson play football. I loved it at Michigan and I love it in Detroit. And so, but I mean, Sue might be a Hall of Famer by the time he's done, but like Hutchinson's certainly not there yet, going into year 3. So yeah, I mean, there's some names, but like I just, so I like watching. I mean, so like this team, I think this team that they're putting together has an opportunity to really put a lot of guys in discussion, especially if they maintain a high level of consistency with like how well they perform. So if you are making it into the playoffs every year and winning division titles and stuff, like you will have accolades that people on the list that we've already talked about do not have in any kind of quantity. It's like outliers, unfortunately. So I think that they'll have to, I mean, like this group, by the time that they're at the point of a Matthew Stafford or a Barry Sanders or a Calvin Johnson, as far as length of career, they very easily could have, accolades like, we went to the Super Bowl, or we've got 4 division titles, or, whatever it is. And like, you could point at that stuff and be like, plus the individual stuff, per your position.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Sewell's already regarded
right?
as the best, the best tackle in the league. So what?
Yeah. I mean, the best part of the current team is there are several people that could be on there if, like you said, if their career keeps projecting, even if they plateau at where they're at, and they don't even have to keep doing this. Like even if they plateau at the performance that they're doing now, St. Brown could be on there, Hutch could be on there, Sewell could be on there, Goff could be on there. I mean, like if he keeps winning and takes us to a Super Bowl, like I could see him being on there. But and that's all like right now. Like we have potential Mount Rushmore people on our team right now, all at the same time. Whereas before, like Stafford did not play with Barry. He played with Calvin, but not with Barry. And Chris Spielman played with Barry. There was just like 1 or 2, but it was not like we could have a whole team full of Mount Rushmore type of people, and we kind of have that now, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to not have a team that's a bottom feeder of the NFL.
Yeah. I love some of the names that are brought up too, like Lomas Brown. I thought he was super underappreciated. Spielman, we've talked about a couple times. A6, if you say Dre Bly and mean it, I may have to boot you out. But Darius Slay, like Dre Bly was good, but Darius Slay, come on, man. Yeah, we got some good Porsche, Bubba Baker, some of those guys. Sue, he'll be in the Hall of Fame, I think. Hatters, Glover.
What's Hatters?
Yep.
I don't know who Kevin Glover is.
He was a guard in that Barry Sanders time frame.
Will Harris, that's it.
I know, right? I was
it's
like,
over.
Come on, man.
It's
Frank
over.
Ragnow, right? I could see that.
Oh yeah, they're good defensive players, sure.
Yeah.
Except Will Harris.
And I'm trying to think he was short, stocky center before a couple guys before
Raiola.
Dominic Raiola. Like
I know that because you made me look it up the other day.
I know, like a month ago. I'm surprised you remember it. But I thought he was also underrated. He was never like widely acclaimed, but I thought he did a really solid job at center. So thought that was fun, Mount Rushmoring. I don't know if you want to think about like different, like who's our top 3 at a couple of key positions. Like obviously wide receiver, you're going to have Calvin at number 1, but like who's the number 2, number 3 wide receivers in our history? Herman Moore's up there, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I felt like there was another guy that played with Herman Moore who I cannot remember.
Brett Perryman?
think that was it. Let me take a look.
He was the number 2 next to Herman Moore. Johnny Morton?
Might be Johnny Morton.
I can't think of who else might he be thinking of, guys. Perryman, Morton.
When did Herman Moore play?
He would have been 90.
His career ended in 2002. So let me just look up 1996 Detroit Lions roster.
Yeah, the main 3 were Moore, Perryman, and Morton. But there might have been a guy just after, like Johnny Morton left or something. I just don't know.
I mean, I'll keep looking for it, but like, yeah. I certainly feel like Herman Moore's got to be on that list for me as far as wide receiver is concerned. I mean, like, you know, I've been alive since 1982, but like, I'm not going to remember 60 years of Detroit Lions football history. I mean, I wish that I could, but I just wasn't around for all of it. Huh, interesting. So what about you, Mike? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's Calvin Johnson. I think it's probably Herman Moore, and I think it's probably Amon-Ra St. Brown as the top 3. Perryman was good. I don't think he's as good as Moore or St. Brown. But he'd probably be my fourth guy on that list.
Gotcha.
Hey, Herb. Tommy Boyd. Boyd, wasn't he a tight end? Or am I thinking of somebody different?
I don't know. I've never.
Did a quick Google foo here. First thing that pops up: ex-Detroit Lion Tommy Boyd gets prison for sex crime.
Oh no!
He's not going on my. Sorry, it's not going to go in the.
You can't. Yeah, you can't have Mount Rushmore with a stain on his record like that.
St. Brown, a well-deserved 3 spot. Yep.
I don't know who it was. I must be thinking of somebody else, but like.
What about running backs? Like Barry's obviously number 1, but after that, it's been kind of hit or miss.
You know, I have memories of certain running backs doing like individually cool things every once in a while. I mean, like Reggie Bush played for the Lions for a while.
Yep.
You know, that was good years. That was fun. I remember we took a kid out of Virginia Tech, I believe it was Kevin Jones.
Oh, yep.
And I remember that he had a run where he took it like 85 yards, and I was like, "Oh my God, Kevin Jones might be good." You know, like I was really excited about that. And there was
a year and a half later, he's cut.
There was, basically. And there was a kid that I think we drafted from Cal. And
Amir Abdullah?
He was, no, I don't think it was Abdullah. But like he was hurt all the time.
Amir Abdullah?
I don't think it's Amir Abdullah. But jeez. Hey chat, running back from Cal 15 years ago. Kevin Smith, was that him?
I don't remember Kevin Smith.
I'll look it up. I got the roster thing open here.
Javid Best, that's it. Javid Best, yep.
Thank you, A6.
Yep.
So I like Javid Best. I was all excited for Javid. Like this is why I couldn't stand like drafting running backs in like early, you know? Yeah, concussions. Yep. You know, and then they took Swift at the top of the second, you know, and stuff like that. And I was just like, I was having a really hard time with like, okay, like, can we work on draft? Like the team has bigger problems than running back. Can we like draft a center, draft a tackle,
because every running back we draft gets hurt.
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
It's just an
Swift, Best, Abdullah, like all of those guys, right? They just can't see the field.
Yeah, basically. So I'm gonna go to like when I graduated from high school and take a look at those teams. But like, you know, like, but this is the problem when you're a bad franchise and you're a bad franchise for so unbelievably long, you know, is that you don't have players like this that stand out. Like if you want to go and talk about Patriots or the Steelers or, you know, like teams that have been good, the Cowboys, teams that have been good for a long time, you know, and have won at the highest levels, like they're going to have
The
Mount Rushmore
Browns.
candidates.
Oh, never mind.
No, not the Browns, Mike. You're ruining this. So
Michael LaShore, Kerryon Johnson. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's also why I was like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs. Yay. We're going to draft another running back that can't see the field because he's hurt all the time.
yeah,
Quick, shifty, just like all the other guys that get hurt. But, man, I don't mind being wrong about whether he was going to live up to his billing.
sure. Like I'm looking at the flipping through. I was like the 2006 Detroit Lions roster. John Kitna, Kevin Jones, Mike Fury was the number 2 wide receiver. Roy Williams,
Billy Sims. I loved Billy Sims. He was really fun to watch. I remember him like leaping over like a pile of people and essentially rolling over, landing on his feet, and then kept running for the touchdown. That was fun.
So like here's the 0-16 team. Like that team was Dan Orlovsky, Kevin Smith, Calvin Johnson, Sean McDonald was the other wide receiver. And I'm looking at I'm just looking at the defensive players to see if there's anybody. Ernie Sims. I remember Ernie Sims.
Oh.
Linebacker from FSU, if I'm recalling correctly. Like Jason Hansen should probably be talked about for being put on the Rushmore, especially if you have a junior Rushmore, like, this is the Roosevelt or whatever,
the guys that we're ashamed to put up, but we need to honor them in some way. Our kicker shouldn't be like one of the best players that we've ever had, right?
Yeah, but he's so good for like 20 years. I mean, like he literally had like a 20-year career, and he was like really excellent for the entire time. So
yeah, and then Eddie Murray before him. Like we had 40 years and had 2 kickers. Yeah, Dr. D's on it with me. Yep, Eddie Murray before Hansen, and then we had Prater for 4, 5, or 6 years, and now we've struggled in that area. So, I mean, even the kicker, like our top 3 kickers, we're sitting there with Hansen, we've got Eddie Murray, and we got Matt Prater. I mean, I put that up against any team's top 3 kickers all time.
Yeah, I mean, like, congratulations, Detroit Lions. You get the best all-time kickers in the NFL, as a group. Delmas? Why does that sound familiar?
Luis Delmas. Didn't he come from Western Michigan University?
No, is that true?
I think so. I'm gonna have to look that up. I thought.
What position did he play? Oh, I got him right here, actually.
Yeah,
free safety, Western Michigan.
Got it.
5'11", 200.
Yep, he was supposed to be a strong hitter.
Yeah, the Bob Sanders, is that the dude from the Colts who was just like a little tiny dude, but it was just a goddamn missile the whole time?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was because he played in like the Ed Reed and the dude from the Steelers, Palomalu era, and it was like, oh, you'd be like considered the best fucking safety of all time if you didn't have to play with these other 2 guys.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's one of those things that context matters, right? In those kind of things, when people are like, well, go back to Stafford, because I'm a Stafford fan, but like when you look at Stafford and the Hall of Fame credential, he never won, he never made the All-Pro list. I'm like, oh, weird. He didn't make the All-Pro list when he's got to go up against Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers, 4 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the history of the game. Yeah, it's really hard to do that. You know who else didn't get an All-Pro? About 10 other guys that are probably going to make the Hall of Fame at some point because they just weren't quite better than, the GOATs. So,
God almighty, I'm going back and looking at these rosters and just like these names are just washing over me. Like Golden Tate, Brandon Pettigrew, Rob Sims, Larry Warford, Ezekiel Ansah, Ashley Palmer, Tahir Whitehead, James Edigbo, Glover Quinn.
Pettigrew has got to be in our top 3 tight ends list.
I mean, that's sad.
Right? I do believe he's got the
Hey,
record.
Let me
for
ask you
tight
this:
end
how
yardage.
long does Sam Laporta have to be good before he's just the best tight end the Lions ever had? Is it one more season?
It's one more seat. Well, actually, who do we have? Oh
Dropped in his
shit!
prime.
Who is? That must be Eric Ebron. He must be talking about.
Maybe.
Detroit Lions. Hall of Famers. We've got a Hall of Famer that's a tight end, and I'm drawing a blank as to who it is. It would have been like old timer Charlie Sanders. So Charlie Sanders is a Hall of Famer.
Isn't Dick Night Train Lane a Hall of Famer?
He is. He's a cornerback. So I would definitely say, like, I didn't get to watch Charlie Sanders play. He played from 68 to 77, and I was born in 77. So I got to put him, like, up there, like, at number one on the tight end list. But I think, God, Laporte is so fucking good. So speaking of the NFL Hot 100 or the top 100, he was the first Lion because they're counting down from 100 down to 1. He was the first Lion that they've had, and he is at number 80.
Yeah.
As a rookie going into a second year, he's at number 80 on the top 100 as voted on by his peers. So that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is awesome. I mean, and like, I know PFF was just doing this exact same thing here a minute, this week because there's nothing going on, and they had Hutch and Sewell and St. Brown and the top 20 or whatever, like current active players in the NFL, and those guys are all year 3, year 4, heading into year 3 or year 4. So I mean, like, they're not to their primes yet, so there's every chance that the Lions have a roster that is going to be, before it's over, I mean, like, Brian Branch could be in there, Terry and Arnold could be in there, who knows? Like, if they decide to play Branch at strong safety and put Rakestraw at nickel for any amount of time, like, this team has a really young, potentially really good core that could be littered. I mean, like, it's just nice. I mean, I was in PFF's chat, and there were Lions fans that were like, Sewell's too low, St. Brown's too low, like, on the rankings, and I'm like, hey guys, how many times have you guys been in these chats and Detroit had nobody on the entire list? Like,
Yeah.
Be a little grateful, stop shouting so hard, and just be like, yeah, all right, 12. Like, it's great, it's fantastic. You have players on this team that could start for any team in the NFL. Finally. So
yeah,
you can just be grateful about it and not just be mad about the fact that they're not rated 11th as opposed to 12th.
How about a coaching Hall of Fame?
No, they don't have entrance. No, I will not hear it. I will not entertain the fact that the 3 best
are you talking about for the Lions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be.
I'm not even gonna offer up an idea. Like, you want to go with Marty Morningweg, Jim Schwartz, and who?
Dan Campbell's got to be one of our best coaches. Wayne Fontes has to be one of our best coaches. And Wayne Fontes was just over 500, right? Like, he would get in the playoffs, have a tougher schedule, and just miss. And then get in the playoffs, just miss. Like, he was more or less a 500 coach. So that's tough. We've had, looking at the list of Detroit Lions in the Hall of Fame, we've got a few that stand out actually as coaches, not necessarily for us. Don Shula was a coach for the Lions at some point. I did not realize that. Joe Schmidt, he's in the Hall of Fame, probably as a linebacker, but he was also a coach at one point. Yeah, so we got a couple, but not necessarily for the stuff that they did with the Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to have a conversation about players and coaches who left the Lions and had better careers in other places, it's a long conversation. Well,
so. I mean, is it though? Like, there's a couple of them, but not lately. Like the last 15 years, the coaches that left Detroit never got other head coaching gigs anywhere.
Yeah, all right, but even Matthew Stafford left the Lions and won a Super Bowl immediately.
Yeah.
So there's points that can be made. So it's unfortunate. All of this kind of is dancing around the point that Detroit for a very long time was just simply not a very good football
coaching team graveyard
or organization, right? They were just not good. And I think that a lot of that is to do with the owners, because you look at the owner now and are they spending more money than the previous owners? I haven't heard anything about that, but they care and they're present and at least they make me feel like the team matters to them.
Yeah.
So, to me, the fact that the team is as bad as long as it's been is mostly a result of the Fords and their trickle down poor decision making. So now we finally have a good Ford who her first two decisions she knocked out of the absolute park in hiring Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, and they made good decisions. And when you hire people that make good decisions, you win football games. So I do think that by the time if you fast forward 20 years and we're on YouTube 6 and we're doing our podcast and it's do you remember when we had a conversation back in 24 and we were talking about the all-time greats and now it's just people that we watched and talked about for the last 20 years and we've got long beards and wrinkles and stuff. I think that'll be a lot of fun, because now we'll actually be able to have a conversation about okay, we don't just have to talk about kickers being on the Mount Rushmore of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. So. And I'm looking at the list of Detroit Lions head coaches, and I'm scrolling back trying to find, okay, when was the last head coach that became a head coach again after they left us? I'm getting back into the 60s, just as an FYI. Joe Schmidt was the Detroit Lions head coach from 67 to 72. He's in the Hall of Fame as linebacker. And I'm going to give him, I'm going to count him. He never actually, he retired after leaving Detroit. He didn't go to another team, but he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to call him good. But going backwards, we have Dan Campbell, so current. Robert Prince coached 1 game in 2020. Darrell Bevel coached 5 games in 2020. Matt Patricia, Jim Caldwell, Jim Schwartz, Rod Marinelli, Dick Giron, Steve Mariucci, Marty Morningweg, Gary Moeller, Bobby Ross, Wayne Font, Darryl Rogers, Monty Clark. Now we're getting into before I was born.
Oh,
I know back in '77 was Tommy Hudspeth.
Who?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. So he was 11-13 with a .458 win percentage, and he only coached 2 years. So going back that far, we have never had consistently good coaches that once they left us, they went on and did something somewhere else. So that's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. So who knows? Maybe Matt Patricia will go on a run with his next team. We can't be sure.
Have you seen the size of Patricia? I don't think that dude runs.
No, I don't think I think he's probably close to just being done in the NFL, to be honest. But it's weird the way people hang on. It's just got to speak to how much I know you, you know me is the NFL.
Yeah.
There.
Well, you're typically living on the past.
Sure.
Right. This guy was a good coordinator.
Right. Yeah.
I know we're almost at that hour mark, but I do have one other thing I want to ask Drew and the group.
This is usually the topic that takes 45 minutes to discuss.
I'm hoping it'll be quicker. Who's on the hot seat this year?
The Detroit Lions.
For the Detroit Lions, who's on the hot seat? Like, who's got to perform and get, make a big jump or?
Let me bring up the roster here real quick.
So this question is going out to the chat too. Like, who do you have on the hot seat? Is it a coach? Is it a player?
I mean, in all honesty, I'm going through all the starters and I can't think of a single starter that's like you have to perform or you're not going to be back with the team.
I think J-Mo is on the hot seat.
No, I don't think so.
I think if he has another year like this last year, I think his ability to get a second contract or not be potential cut. Anwu Zarike, there's a good one.
Yeah, I would say him. I think Kaminsky is going to have a hard time sticking on the roster next year.
Mosley.
Craig Reynolds, I think, might have his job taken by Vaki. But like, I think about this team and like it's the second or third person at a position now.
Yeah.
So like if the defense just doesn't play well, Aaron Glenn might not be back next year because like my opinion when people say that Aaron Glenn has underperformed, like my opinion has been like he has not gotten what he needs in order to run quote unquote his defense or whatever. But like this is the first year that I'm like I'm having trouble identifying a problem spot with what you got, Aaron. So this would be my first year of like, let's see, But so Aaron Glenn, maybe, and that's just if the defense is bad, and I don't think it will be because I don't really see glaring holes on the defense anymore. I mean, even like Jack Campbell, like is saying like he's got the green dot in practice and was like is behaving exactly like you expect to see a guy that runs the defense acts, and if that translates onto the field, like can I really complain about Jack Campbell? Probably not. And so like
what about Jake Bates?
Yeah, I guess, but I mean just like I want a good kicker on the team, but like
and maybe hot seat's not the right right phrase. It's more like the spotlight, like everybody's looking that like you need to perform or one of those kind of things. And I would put Campbell on that list, but not the hot seat list, right? You're going to want to say like, all right,
if you cut Craig Reynolds, the linemen might riot. Sorry, dude. I mean, like they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was saying because I asked him, like, when you say he's a Lion for life, I'm not sure what he meant. Unless he's talking about Aaron Glenn.
Who was
Craig Reynolds?
So we had a fullback on the roster last year. What was his name?
Great question.
Who was the fullback that the Lions had on the roster the last couple of years? It was like a really great special teamer.
But he was also hurt most of the time, so he was
was hurt last year. I don't know what the dude's name is off the top. I'll know it as soon as I hear it. But like that guy was talked about like he will have a place on this team forever because he's super good at special teams and like the Lions want to use a fullback and he's just like the ultimate locker room guy. And he's not on the team this year because you just run out of spots.
Yeah.
Like, can Jalen Reeves-Maben stick even after they gave him the money? I mean, who are they drafting next year? I mean, like that's the other thing. Like, eventually, like the roster is getting saturated to the point where it's like your first round pick probably doesn't play his rookie season. I mean,
it's such a good problem to have.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, but like that's where the team is. Like that's where the roster stands.
Jason Kabinda. Yeah.
So like Jason Kabinda not on the team, and all the linemen that you're paying millions of dollars somehow are. I don't know why they would stick. And like they might be upset, but like then you ask them the question like at the end of practice one day, and it's like, well, it's a business, and,
Yeah.
so that kind of stuff. But like, I think that they will have to make. So if Rakestraw is great, Carlton Davis might not be on the roster next season. And if you just are like, we have to give Rakestraw a spot, then okay. And like you spent more on Arnold and Rakestraw than you did on Davis. So even though they restructured Davis in a way that looks like they're getting ready to gear him up for an extension, if Rakestraw just comes out of the gates and it's like, this dude is great against the run and he hasn't missed a step, and it's like, we have to keep this guy on the field because we can't rationally take him off of it, then like, I mean, Carlton Davis might, but like someone could get hurt, and then the next guy up takes their spot, and that's just a reality of the NFL too. So I mean, I don't have a good. I don't
Bledsoe. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the Bledsoe phenomenon. But like, I don't. I mean, like, I don't think that. I mean, JMO does what they want him to do. Now,
he's dropped quite a few balls, so he needs.
He dropped 5 passes last year.
Well, that's a pretty high percentage considering how infrequently the ball got to him.
Yeah, well, if you don't throw him the ball when you throw the ball 60% of the balls to St. Brown and Laporta, it doesn't leave it. And and then Josh Reynolds has like 55 catches on like almost 80 targets. Like there isn't a lot of space, and they want to get Gibbs the ball more, which they will. But like the dude played 9 games before the start of last season. I mean, like, before he got onto the field or whatever. I mean, like, if Jameson Williams just continues to play the way that Jameson Williamson has played up until this point, I would still sign him to a second contract. I'm just not going to max it out.
Yeah.
Because like you just can't teach speed, and like he has speed for days. So, I mean, it's a skill that just gets you on NFL rosters. And like, they loved using him on like those ends around and those jet sweeps or whatever last year. Like he scored against the Saints and in the playoffs against the 49ers. So like they want to use him in that way, and like, they've handed the ball off to St. Brown some, and like they want to get a bunch of people involved in the running game, and I think that he'll be a part of that to some degree. But like, if we're going to talk about drops, I mean, like, can Jared Goff just maybe put the ball in his hands? I mean, like,
with a spiral instead of the duck.
I mean, I understand he's a $50 million quarterback now, but like, I fucking cringe having to go watch Matthew Stafford throw a fucking tight spiral 60 yards down the field for 12 years. And then I watch Jared Goff's flutter ball or whatever he wants to call it, and it like ends up in guys who just are at the upper echelon of being able to catch the ball in the NFL, period, in Laporta and St. Brown. Like those guys, I mean, you were telling me that St. Brown was playing last year and he ripped his thigh muscle off the bone or something.
Pulled his oblique right off the bone. It was crazy, the shit that he went through. And you never noticed. Yeah. Unrelated side note from ASICS, huh? I don't know if it's coming or if it's the oblique being an unrelated side note, but we'll have to see if there's anything else popping up in the chat from ASICS. What about Broderick Martin? Is he a hot seater?
No. You traded up in the 3rd round. You let him take the whole year off to teach him how you wanted him to play football. And he hasn't been on the field yet. So there's just he would have to take off another player's helmet and beat him to death with it on the field to not be on the roster his entire rookie deal.
So he's more of the spotlight guy, not the hot seat guy. Like, eyes are going to be on him to see what he does, but he's not a hot seat. Is that kind of what you're saying?
So like he's at best 3rd on the depth chart, and because he's going to be behind McNeil and Reeder. And like Mekhi Wingo, who is their 6th round pick, is like 290 or whatever, but like they think that he can play defensive end as well. And I mean, I just think that Broderick Martin is a developmental nose tackle that's going to be like he's going to eat up some amount of snaps on on running downs. So
here was ASIC's unrelated side note. He said they released the rankings of, and I don't know who they is. I don't know if it was like ESPN or NFL.com of NFC quarterbacks. Oh, by the NFL execs. I just need to keep reading. Goff was high, but below Stafford, and Lions fans were going nuts because Goff beat Stafford in the playoffs. He said, it was like, did you guys happen to watch the damn game? Goff played great, but Stafford played at an insane level in a losing effort that game. Yeah. He did. Those are all accurate statements, but we were able to do more in the red zone. They stopped handing it off to Kyron Williams down low, and we got the pressure on them, and that was the difference in the game was red zone.
So I think the thing about Jared Goff that I'm coming around to understanding why so many people like him so much is that, like, it's got to be the things that you don't just see on the field as to why people like him. I mean, like, he's just got married to like a Miss Universe person. Like, you don't just go up to girls like that if you're just not like a confident, well-spoken dude, right? And like, I think that's the thing. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, like, this is not Ben Johnson's offense. It's Ben Johnson and Jared Goff's offense. Like, I've read numerous articles now where people are like, if Ben Johnson leaves, Jared Goff can just teach the offense to whomever comes in because that's how well he knows it. And like, the amount of input that he's had on the offense rivals that of Ben Johnson. So I mean, like, his superpower must be that, like, he's easy to work with as like taking coaching, and he must just be a fucking genius when it comes to like the X's and O's of football and being able to take the X's and O's and put it on the field and make it happen like the way you draw it up on a chalkboard is not easy to do. And like, that might just be the thing that Jared Goff is really good at. But like, when I watch him,
the first half of that is yes.
Sure.
If the second half was yes, I don't think McVay would have given up on him.
Well, I mean, they just, I mean, maybe not, but like, I still think that like I don't need to be informed on any Goff conversations. I'm fine. But like, if I'm starting a team, there's probably 15 quarterbacks or 12 quarterbacks in the NFL that I want on my team before Jared Goff. Well, yeah, he plays Tom Brady football because Tom Brady football is like just the definition of a non-athletic quarterback playing football. I mean, Tom Brady is
with good receivers that can get open. Yeah, Tom Brady's 42 years old, but he's playing it with guys like Mike Evans. Who's gonna probably go in the Hall of Fame because he gets open, he catches, he makes a contested catches, he runs after the catch, racks up yards. Like, yeah, and that's essentially what we've got here. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who maybe he's had 2 drops in his 3 years with us or something crazy. Sam Laporta for a rookie, like, he was the black hole. He didn't drop very many. And it's that quick, short pass to guys that don't drop the ball and get open.
Yeah, it's just not crazy what it takes for unathletic quarterbacks to be good. It's a known quantity because it's what was being done in the NFL 15 years ago. Because the NFL still valued your 3-step drop. We're going to take our 5 yards and go. And so, like, they clearly built a roster around the fact that Jared Goff can do that. But like, I think the reason that Sean McVay and the Rams decided to move on from Jared Goff is the fact that, like, you get to a Super Bowl, you lose to Tom Brady, and you know that Jared Goff is not going to be better at what he and Brady do than Tom Brady. Yeah. So how are you supposed to get over the hump? And so, like, you hope that you don't play him. Like, that's dodging. I mean, you and I play Magic, and sometimes you just got to dodge your bad matchup.
Yeah.
So, like, but they went out and they made a trade and they gave up a lot, in order to improve
Bump
at the
up the
quarterback
matchup.
position.
Yeah.
And so like Matthew Stafford, going into year 14 or 15 or whatever this is for him, like it still has a top 3 arm in the NFL, like Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, like those are probably the 3 best arms.
Yeah. Maybe Josh Allen. That dude's got
maybe
a cannon.
Josh Allen. Yeah, maybe I'm being unfair to
But
Josh.
I would put them all in the same tier of like I wouldn't put
gone.
Stafford behind those groups, but I wouldn't also put them in front, right? Like that's tier 1, right? Those are the cannons.
Yeah, and like so A6 has, a good point here, but like, McVay could have wanted to do different things.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the point, is that like when you have non-athletic quarterbacks, like RPOs don't work. Like, and there's a lot of RPO work in football now, and you have to be able to do things like stretch a defense, and Goff can't do that. So like Goff wants to work the intermediary part of the field, fine, but you have to be excellent at it. And so far in Detroit, at least the last 2 years, he's been excellent at it. He has gotten markedly better every year that he's been in Detroit, right? Like, and he's to the point now where if he plateaus at this level of play, you're in the conversation for like, you expect to be in the NFC title game. You expect to go deep into the playoffs, maybe even fight or win, a Super Bowl. But like, you want, I would rather have Lamar Jackson.
So this is one of the things, ASIC made a couple good comments there. The first one was about he thinks they moved on from Goff because he couldn't do the thing McVay wanted in offense, whereas Detroit would rather build their offense around their talent. The only thing I'll push back here is I think that if Stafford hadn't already said, you know what, I don't want to start over again, please trade me, I think McVay would have kept Goff and tried to work around his skill set. But he found an opportunity to not have to do that, and the quarterback that could do the things he wanted was available, and they went and got him. So I don't think it's a matter of like we would rather build around our talent and the skill set of our players. I think they just had an opportunity to get the guy that fit what he wanted to do without having to work around it, right?
I mean, maybe that's exactly what happened. I don't think that you hear that Matthew Stafford makes a trade request, which I don't know that immediately. I mean, like, I think that would have had to have been a phone call from Brad to Sean. It'd have been like, hey, Matt made a trade you guys want in on it, because they shopped Matthew Stafford around the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a deal like with Carolina, there was a deal with Denver. So like, and it ended up that Los Angeles outbid everybody else. So fine, great. But like, it doesn't change the fact that I think that Los Angeles was in the quarterback market, and they had just paid Goff $100 million, which at the time was a lot of money 5 years ago.
It's still a lot of money. I don't have that in my bank account.
No, I wish I did.
All right. Well, I thought that was an interesting one, the hot seat piece, and I think we've got a couple guys that are probably either on the hot seat or at least in the spotlight with a lot of eyeballs on them. So, anything else to chat Lions on, Drew, before we bust out of here and wait until next week?
Training camp is, I think, rookies report this week and vets report early next week. And then there will be a week of that. So we might have news coming out about training camps. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll actually have, we'll be looking forward to preseason games, which I think start the first week of August. So, and then of course we'll do preseason 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll make the cut down to 53 after that, and so we'll have that to talk about. And then we'll be into the actual games. Cannot wait. 1 month to go. So,
speaking of preseason, one final thing. Apparently, the NFLPA and the NFL have had their first talks on what it would look like and what it would take to move to an 18-game regular season. So I'll be curious to see what those talks end up. We talked about before, it's inevitable. Preseason games are going to shrink and regular season game will probably increase, but I'll be curious to see what they come up with and when that would start.
Yeah, they'll go to, I would bet my bottom dollar it's 18 games and 2 bye weeks. So
I think it makes complete sense.
When Joe Burrow starts volunteering shit and when he's at a press conference about like, oh no, 18 games in 2 weeks, like you think the NFLPA has not talked to people that were like, hey guys, what do you think about going to an 18
Here's an idea.
just saying,
We need a naked bootleg
Fuck,
touchdown from Goff.
if Peyton Manning can do it, I mean Jared Goff can. I mean Jared Goff is more athletic than Peyton Manning. So let's see it one time. It's fourth and goal at the 4, and you just shift everybody right, and Jared just trots in going left. That's fine with me.
I'd love it. I wouldn't mind seeing a little corner fade too. I haven't seen one of those from him yet.
Because we don't have a receiver that you can throw a fade to. I mean,
all right, guys.
Antoine Green's that guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you guys next Tuesday, 7 p.m. as usual. Awesome chatting with you, Drew.
Well, it's good talking to you.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.